The cold air of the Galactic station burned in her chest as Captain Gila ran through the corridor. Her long silver hair flew behind her like a flag of war. Explosions shook the metal walls. The alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The war had started, but it wasn't the one she had expected. 9 months ago, she had stood tall in the council chambers, laughing at the human general who had offered her protection. Protection? She had scoffed. From what? Your kind are fragile. I am warrior-born. Now she understood. Back then, Gila was the finest soldier of the Valari Empire. She had no fear. She had trained on lava planets, fought pirates in asteroid fields, and even stood toe-to-toe with the Grak beasts of Daruan. To her, humans were slow, weak, and too emotional. They always talked of safety, peace, and protection. They feared risk. They built bunkers instead of courage. And yet, it was a human who saved her. She still remembered his eyes calm, deep, and always watching. Captain Darius Harlan. His voice was soft but firm. You think we protect ourselves because we're weak? No, Gila. We protect what matters. Gila hadn't listened then. Now, as she sprinted through the flaming hallway of the medical deck, she cursed her pride. The Valari base had fallen within hours. The Zarn swarm race thought extinct had returned from deep space. They were faster, smarter, meaner. They tore through their enemies without warning. Without mercy, Gila's elite squad had been the first to respond. They were also the first to die. Except her, and the child. Her hand clutched her belly as another explosion rocked the station. She had never believed she could carry a child, especially not a hybrid. The idea was insane. Her body was Valari. It shouldn't have worked. But somehow, Darius' DNA had bonded with hers. The doctors were shocked. So was she. At first, she denied it. Refused to believe it. But then the baby moved. Now, every decision she made was not just for her. It was for him. 9 months ago, she wouldn't have cared if the galaxy burned. Now, she would set the universe on fire to keep this child safe. Gila ducked under a fallen beam. Her strength was fading. The pregnancy slowed her, but she refused to fall. She pushed open the emergency door and stumbled into the escape pod room. It was chaos. 2 nurses lay dead. A security officer fired useless shots at a Zarn drone slithering from the ceiling. Gila didn't hesitate. She pulled the energy blade from her belt, leaped, and drove it deep into the drone's center eye. The machine shrieked and sparked before falling. Is there a working pod? She shouted. The officer nodded. Only one left. Manual launch. But the controls are offline. Gila looked at the pod. Small, but enough. She had trained to fly in worse. But she had to survive the launch and keep the child alive. She had no choice. She turned to the officer. Cover me for 30 seconds, the man saluted. Yes, ma'am. She opened the hatch, stepped inside, and strapped herself in. Her breath came hard. Her fingers moved quickly over the manual override. Sparks flew. Smoke filled the air. She heard gunfire outside. She didn't look back. The pod launched. She was thrown against the seat. Pain stabbed her belly. A scream rose in her throat, but she bit down. The stars outside the pod blurred. Behind her, the station grew smaller. Then it exploded. A fireball bloomed in space. The shockwave hit her pod hard. Lights flickered. Systems died. But the shell held. She had made it out. Barely. Zhyla leaned back in her seat. Her hand gently touched her stomach. You made me understand, Darius, she whispered. This is what you meant by protection. She closed her eyes, but she didn't sleep. Somewhere out there, Darius was fighting, maybe dying, maybe already gone, but if he was alive, she would find him, and this time she would not scoff. This time she would protect him. And their child. With everything she had left. The escape pod floated silently through the dark space. Inside, Jayla sat still, her body weak, her breath slow. Alarms blinked quietly on the console, warning her about low power, oxygen, and damaged systems. The pod was not made for long travel. It was made for fast exit. Survival was never promised. She placed her hand on her belly. The child was calm. Not a kick, not a stir. He trusted her. That was more painful than any wound. Her sharp vellory eyes scanned the star map. The pod's navigation was partly dead, but she could still see one friendly signal nearby, Outpost 17, a human-run supply station floating near the asteroid belt. It wasn't much, but it was hoped. She typed the command. Manual override. Course set. The pod turned. Then the silence broke. A red dot appeared on the scanner. Fast, aggressive, not friendly. A Zarn hunter drone. No. Jayla hissed. These drones didn't patrol. They hunted. They followed survivors. No one had ever escaped once marked. She tightened the harness over her body and turned on the stealth field. It flickered and buzzed, weak from the damage. It wouldn't last long. She turned off all lights, all sound, all signals, but the hunters still moved closer. Damn it. She remembered the human trick Darius had shown her once: burn your own heat signature, using waste thrusters to scatter energy. At that time, she had laughed. A cheap trick. Now she needed that cheap trick to save her life. She opened the panel beneath the control board, found the emergency thruster line, and ignited it manually. A burst of flame shot from the back of the pod, confusing the tracking signal. The drone paused, moved left, then right, then gone. Jayla held her breath for 20 full seconds. Still gone. She exhaled. Thank you, Darius, she whispered. I'm sorry I mocked your methods. But relief didn't last long. Another alert blinked. Fuel critical. Oxygen. 2 hours. Her heart pounded. She could reach Outpost 17, but only if she didn't burn more energy. And if the drone didn't return. She leaned back and tried to rest. She couldn't afford panic now. She had to be clear-headed. Memories returned in the quiet. She remembered the night she first laughed at Darius. It was after a joint military training on Earth. The humans had set up protective force fields and bunkers all over the base. Jayla had scoffed. Your people are so afraid, Darius had replied calmly. We don't protect because we fear death. We protect because we love life. She hadn't understood then. Now she did. She didn't want to die, not because she feared death, but because life was inside her. Her child. A sudden beeping pulled her back. A faint signal. Outpost 17. It was still alive. She activated the beacon. This is Captain Jayla of Villari Empire. Emergency. I am carrying wounded and a child. Request emergency docking. Silence. Then static. Then a voice. Jayla, this is Outpost 17, human station. Do you copy? Her heart jumped. Yes, I copy. This is Commander Ellis. We're picking up your signal. You're coming in fast. Manual dock required. I can do it. She grabbed the control sticks. Her fingers were trembling, but she held them firm. The station came into view, an old gray ring-shaped structure. Not large, but safe. Hopefully. She angled the pod. Lights flashed along the ring. The humans had opened the hangar bay for her. Just as she began to descend, the red dot returned on the scanner. The drone was back. And this time, it brought company. 3 dots. Then 5. A swarm. Jayla screamed into the com. I'm bringing Zarn drones. Prepare defenses. We see them. Just land now. The pod shook as enemy fire hit behind her. She jerked the controls left, dodging a blast. Smoke filled the small cabin. One more hit and she would burn. The bay door opened wider. Zyla pushed the pod into a spin, using momentum to flip it sideways, another human trick. The drones missed again. She slammed the manual reverse, flipped the pod nose down, and dropped hard into the bay. A crash. The pod slammed into the deck. Sparks flew. Lights died. Zyla's world went dark. She woke to shouting, human voices. Someone pulled open the pod hatch. Bright lights flooded in. Zyla blinked, gasping for air. Medic, she's bleeding. She's pregnant, get her to medbay. Hands. Grabbed her, lifted her, carried her. But before she passed out again, she saw one thing that made her heart freeze. A human officer, wearing Darius Harlan's military crest. She tried to speak. Darius. Then she fell into darkness. Zyla opened her eyes slowly. A soft light above her made everything blur. The cold floor was gone. The screaming alarms were silent. For the first time in days, she felt warmth. Safety. She blinked. Her body ached, her arms heavy. Then she felt it, her belly, still full. The baby was alive. A voice spoke nearby, calm, familiar. She's awake. Increase hydration drip. Don't move too fast, Captain. Zyla turned her head slowly. A young human medic stood beside her. She had kind eyes and wore a white coat with the Earth Alliance symbol. The girl smiled gently. Relax, the medic said. You're at Outpost 17. You made it. Zyla tried to sit up. The child? He's safe. Strong heartbeat. But you need rest. You were nearly in shock when you arrived. Zyla breathed deeply. For the first time, her warrior instincts were quiet. But her thoughts raced. The drones? She asked. Destroyed, the medic replied. We shot them down the moment you crash-landed. Commander Ellis was ready. Zyla nodded weakly. I saw a man. The crest on his armor. Is he here? The medic's smile faded. You mean Darius Harlan? Zyla's pulse quickened. Yes, the girl looked away. You should speak to Commander Ellis. He's waiting. Zyla's mind swirled. Darius might be alive. She had to know. Later, Zyla was helped into a clean uniform. Her strength was slowly returning. 2 guards escorted her down a long hall, filled with human soldiers, engineers, and officers. Some stared at her. Few had seen a Valari warrior up close. Fewer had seen one carrying a human's child. At the end of the corridor, the door to command center opened. Commander Ellis stood by the table, looking over a holographic battle map. He was older, sharp-eyed, and calm. He turned as she entered. Captain? Zyla, he said. It's good to see you alive. She walked in slowly. Thank you for saving us. He nodded. You saved yourself. We just opened the door. Her eyes burned with questions. Darius, where is he? The commander hesitated. He's not here. Not anymore. Zyla's legs felt weak again. He's alive, Ellis said quickly, seeing her face. But we lost contact with his unit 3 months ago. Last we heard, he was deep behind enemy lines on the mining moon Varrock 7. He refused evacuation. Said he had a reason to stay. Zyla stepped forward. Then I'll go there. Ellis raised an eyebrow. You're carrying a child. This child is his, she replied. And I owe him everything. I mocked his belief in protection. Now I understand it. Ellis studied her face. Then he turned to the map. You'd be walking into a war zone. The Zarn took Varrock 7 weeks ago. Our satellites show heavy drone activity, but if anyone can get in and out, it's you. He tapped a control. A small datapad slid toward her. Coordinates. Last ping from his unit. Use our ship. Take who you need. But leave the baby here. Zyla looked down. No, Ellis frowned. He's safer here. He's safer with me. she said firmly. I am Velari. We do not leave our blood behind, Ellis sighed. Fine. Then you leave at sunrise. I'll give you a team. 1 human. 1 Velari. 1 drone tech. That's all I can spare. Agreed. He stepped closer. You still think we're weak? She shook her head. No. I think you protect what you love. And now, I finally understand why. The next morning, Jyla stood in the hangar bay, watching the crew load supplies into a light stealth ship. Her armor had been cleaned. Her eyes were sharp. She looked like the warrior she had always been, but this time, something was different. She wasn't fighting for glory. She was fighting for love. 2 figures approached her. First was Lieutenant Rhea, a human recon specialist. Young, confident, quick with a blaster. I read about you, she said. Didn't believe half of it, but now I do. Jyla nodded. Don't slow me down. Rhea grinned. Wouldn't dare. The second was Lurak, a Velari engineer. Older, calm, and missing 1 arm. We once trained in the same moons. You were always faster, smarter. Jyla stared at him. Then keep up. Lastly, a repair drone hovered behind them. Its voice chirped. Designation. Kip, I like you. Jyla sighed. Great. Even machines have feelings now. She turned to the ship. Took a deep breath. This mission wasn't just rescue. It was redemption. For her pride. For her past. For the man she had once laughed at and now couldn't live without. Asterisk. The ship broke through the dust clouds of Varrock 7 like a knife cutting ash. The surface below was ruined craters, burnt fields, and shattered towers. Nothing moved. No life signs. Only static and old heat trails. Sheila stood beside the pilot's chair, arms crossed, eyes focused. Behind her, Rhea checked weapons, Lurak adjusted drone feeds, and Kip hovered silently. This planet was full of mining colonies, Rhea said. Now it's a graveyard. Sheila didn't respond. Her eyes scanned for anything, movement, signal. Hope. Suddenly, a faint distress beacon lit up on the map. Jyla stepped forward. There. Sector B9. Deep canyon. Hidden from orbit scans. Rhea leaned closer. That's old territory. Places crawling with Zarn nests. Jyla didn't blink. That's where he is, Lurak sighed. Then we better land fast and quiet. The ship descended into the canyon like a ghost. Its silent thrusters hummed softly, barely disturbing the dust. They touched down on a broken landing pad, half buried in rock. Weapons ready. They moved out. Jyla led, pulse rifle in hand. Her steps were smooth and silent. Rhea followed, scanning corners, covering the rear. Lurak and Kip stayed close, checking movement sensors. The canyon was dark and narrow, twisted like a maze. Sharp shadows moved across the walls. They reached the source of the beacon, a collapsed mining building. Jyla signaled for silence. They stepped inside. The air was thick with smoke. Machines lay broken. Walls were scorched. But the beacon blinked on a crushed helmet, human design. Rhea picked it up. Darius? No, Jyla said, studying it. Not his size. Kip hovered closer, scanning the area. DNA trace detected, part matched to Darius Harlan. Estimated exposure 72 hours ago. Jyla's heart raced. He was here. But why leave the beacon? Lurak asked. Jyla looked around. Because he wanted someone to find it. A click echoed in the dark, then another. Jyla spun just in time as a Zarn hunter lunged from the ceiling. She fired. The shot ripped through its head. But more came. From behind machines. From vents. From the ground. They were surrounded. Kip, EMP now. Rhea shouted. The drone launched. A pulse. Blue waves blasted out, disabling smaller drones nearby. But the larger Zarn kept coming. Jyla moved like lightning, blade in one hand, rifle in the other. She cut down 2, then 3. Her movements were sharp and full of rage. But not while Control she protected her team, like Darius once protected her. Lurak fired covering blasts. Rhea launched a grenade, buying them seconds. Back to the ship. Go. But Jyla didn't move. Her eyes locked on a passage the Zarn had come from. Wait, she said. They were guarding something. She ran into the tunnel. Jyla, Rhea shouted. Don't. Too late. Jyla disappeared into the shadows. The tunnel was narrow and hot. Red lights flickered overhead. She moved fast, ignoring the pain in her legs. Her child stirred again, reminding her time was short. Then, a sound, weak, human, a whisper. Zhyla, she froze. Darius? A figure crawled from behind a damaged wall. It was him. Dirty. Wounded? Thin, but alive. Jyla dropped her rifle. Her heart stopped. She rushed to him and caught him before he fell. He smiled weakly. Didn't think you'd actually come. She knelt, held his face in her hands. Idiot, I should have come sooner. He looked down. Is that? She nodded. Your son. His eyes softened. I never thought we weren't even the same species. She touched his hand. And yet, here he is. He laughed softly. Guess protection wasn't such a foolish idea after all. But their moment was short. Kip's voice crackled in her ear. More enemies inbound. 30 seconds. Jyla stood and helped Darius up. Can you walk? Not fast. Then hold on. She lifted him half carry, half drag. She'd carried heavier. He was worth every step. They burst out of the tunnel. As more Zarn closed in, Rhea covered their exit. About time. Lurak hit the ship's remote. Engines roared. Jyla got Darius inside, then turned and fired one last shot, taking down a Zarn trying to stab Kip. Then the ramp closed. They blasted. Off. Up, away from the canyon. Into the clouds. Toward the stars. Safe for now. Darius lay back on the floor, eyes closed. You saved me. Jyla knelt beside him, hand on her belly. No, you saved me first. I just returned the favor. He reached out and touched her stomach. Gently. Then let's protect this one, together. She nodded. For once, she understood. Protection wasn't weakness. It was strength. Inside the ship, Darius lay in the medbay, hooked to an 4 drip. His body was covered in old wounds, burns, a fractured leg. He hadn't eaten properly in weeks. Yet, his eyes were steady as he looked at Jyla standing beside him. You look different, he said quietly. Jyla smirked. You look worse, he chuckled weakly. Still sharp. I had to be, she replied. You made me that way. Silence followed. Only the hum of the ship's engine filled the room. Then she spoke again. I almost didn't come. Why? I thought. You wouldn't want me anymore. I mocked your beliefs, your way of life. He reached out slowly, took her hand. You came. That's all that matters now. She squeezed his hand. In the cockpit, Rhea piloted the ship while Lurak ran diagnostics. Kip hovered above them, scanning the nearby sectors. We've got incoming signals, Kip chirped. 3 enemy scouts, fast, moving to intercept. Of course, Rhea muttered. We never get a quiet ride. She opened the comm. Jyla. We've got a problem. Jyla stepped out of the medbay quickly. What is it? Rhea pointed at the screen. 3 Zarn drones. Cutting off our return path to Outpost 17. Evasive route? Jyla asked. Barely, Lurak answered. We'll need to go through the Black Zone. Jyla's eyes narrowed. The Black Zone was a region of space filled with debris from destroyed fleets. Navigation was dangerous. Many ships entered. Few came out. If we stay in normal space, we'll be sitting targets, Rhea said. We go through the zone, we might survive. Might. Jyla looked at the monitor, then back toward the medbay. Set course for the black zone. The ship dove into the dead region of space. Wreckage floated in every direction, broken star cruisers, shattered escape pods, spinning metal fragments. Some still flickered with dead lights. Jyla stood behind Rhea. Keep your hands steady. Always do, Rhea replied, dodging a spinning wing fragment. Behind them, the 3 enemy drones entered the zone as well. Their red lights glowed like angry eyes in the dark. Kip turned. They're faster, but not smarter. Lurik nodded. Then let's outsmart them. For the next 20 minutes, the chase became a deadly dance. The ship weaved between wrecks, through burning husks of old warships. Sometimes so close the hull scraped along metal. Jyla took control of rear weapons and launched decoy flares. One drone was caught in a trap. Exploded instantly. Nice shot, Rhea shouted. Jyla didn't smile. 2 left. Lurik rerouted power to the engines. We've only got 1 more boost left. After that, we're running on fumes. The second drone fired a tracking missile. Kip shrieked, incoming. Jyla grabbed the controls and spun the ship sideways. The missile clipped the tail, ripping part of the stabilizer. The ship shook violently. Alarms blared. We're hit. Rhea yelled, losing altitude. Land. Jyla ordered. Rhea nodded. There's a drifting cruiser up ahead. It's big enough to hide inside. The ship crashed into the side of the broken cruiser, grinding to a stop. Metal screamed. Sparks flew, but the cabin held. Smoke filled the air. Jyla pulled herself up. Status? Rhea coughed. Still breathing. Kip beeped. Hull integrity 50%. No escape unless repaired. The medbay alarm blinked red. Jyla rushed back. Darius had fallen off the bed. He was on the floor, holding his side in pain. She knelt beside him. You shouldn't move. I heard the crash, he said through gritted teeth. Did we lose? No, she replied. Not yet. She helped him back up, her arms trembling. We're stuck inside an old warship. 2 enemy drones still outside. He looked into her eyes. You need to get out. Protect the baby. I'm not leaving you behind, she said firmly. This isn't about me. Yes, it is. Her voice cracked. You were the only one who ever believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. His hand brushed her cheek. Then believe now. We can get through this. A quiet voice interrupted. I can help, Kip said. Everyone turned. I can leave the ship. Attach myself to the last enemy drone. Overload my power core. Destroy it. You'll have a clear path. Jyla stared at the small drone. You'll die. Kip blinked. I'm not alive, but I do have purpose. Rhea spoke gently. He's right. We can't outrun them, but maybe we can fool them. Jyla closed her eyes, then nodded once. Do it, Kip. 10 minutes later, the last drone circled outside the wreck. Kip launched from the ship, floating like a piece of junk. The enemy didn't notice until it was too close. The drone latched on. Kip now. Jyla shouted. A bright flash lit the dark zone. The final drone exploded. The ship powered up again, limping out of the black zone. Systems failing but flying. Behind them, nothing but fire and wreckage. They were alive. Darius looked at Jyla. You chose to stay alive for all of us. She nodded. Not because I feared death, but because I finally understand what's worth living for. He smiled. Then maybe you are human after all. She looked down at her belly, hand resting gently on it. No, she whispered. I'm more. Asterisk. The ship limped back into human-controlled space, sparks flying from the damaged rear engines. Warning lights flashed across the console, but it was moving. That was enough. Outpost 17 came into view, its steel walls surrounded by defense turrets, lights blinking in rhythm, and small craft circling like insects around a hive. Gila stood behind Rhea, arms folded tightly. Her eyes were focused but tired. "We made it," Rhea whispered. "Can't believe it." Gila didn't respond. Her heart was heavy. Kip was gone. The little drone had given everything so they could escape. "We need to land quickly," Lurek said from the co-pilot seat. "The stabilizers won't hold another orbit." Rhea nodded. "Permission to land requested." A voice came over the comm. "Outpost 17 welcomes the crew of the Valkyra 1. Landing Bay 5 is open." As the ship descended, Gila walked to the medbay. Darius lay quietly, but his eyes were open. He smiled faintly when he saw her. "Didn't crash this time?" "Almost," she replied. He reached for her hand. "You kept us alive. You protected all of us." She looked at him, then at her belly. "I finally know why you cared so much about protection. It's not fear. It's love." Doctors rushed them into the medical wing as soon as they landed. Darius was taken for surgery. Gila was checked for stress and labor signs. She refused a stretcher. "I can walk," the doctor warned her gently. "You've reached full term. You need to stay in medbay. You could deliver any time." Gila nodded. But her eyes stayed locked. On the door where Darius had disappeared, Rhea and Lurek sat beside her. "You've changed," Lurek said softly. Gila nodded. "I didn't know how much love could change someone until I carried it inside me." Rhea smiled. "You think he'll make it?" "He has to," Gila said firmly. "He made me believe in something bigger than pride. He showed me what real strength looks like." Then suddenly her breath caught. Pain shot through her lower back. Her hands clenched the sides of the chair. The doctor looked over. "It's time." The medbay lights were warm and dimmed. Nurses moved quickly around her. Machines beeped steadily. Gila lay on the bed, teeth clenched, sweat rolling down her forehead. A nurse wiped her face. "Just breathe. You're strong. You've got this." I've fought beasts with 3 heads," Gila muttered. "But this is harder." Then a voice echoed in the room. "You're doing great." Gila opened her eyes. Darius stood at the door, one arm in a sling. Bandaged ribs. Weak on his feet, but alive. Her heart jumped. "You idiot," she whispered. He smiled. "I told them I wouldn't miss this." He stepped forward and took her hand. "I'm here. We'll do this together." Gila gritted her teeth. Together. The pain grew, stronger, sharper, but she held on because he was there. And because the life she carried was worth it. Hours later, the cry of a newborn filled the room. The nurse gently lifted the small child and wrapped him in a soft blanket. Gila was exhausted, her body aching, her mind spinning, but her eyes locked onto her child. He had Darius' eyes. The nurse placed the baby in her arms. Gila stared down, and something inside her shifted. Something powerful. Something fierce. She had never felt anything like it before. Darius leaned over her shoulder, his voice choked. "He's perfect." Gila nodded slowly. "He's ours." They sat in silence, just watching the little human Valari. Hybrid breathed softly in her arms. "This," Darius said quietly, "is why we protect." Gila kissed the child's forehead. "And this time, no enemy will touch him." The next morning, Commander Ellis entered the med bay. He stood by the door, arms crossed, watching the small family. "You really did it," he said. "I didn't think you'd come back." Gila raised her head. "Neither did I." Ellis walked closer, glancing at the baby. "We've never had a hybrid like this before, human Valari." Gila narrowed her eyes. "He's not an experiment. He's our son." Ellis held up his hands. Noted. But the council will want to see him, and there will be questions. Darius spoke softly. Then they'll get answers from both of us. Jayla nodded. If anyone wants to reach him, they'll have to go through me. Ellis smiled. Now that sounds like the Jayla we know. That evening the outpost went quiet. No alarms, no battle. Just peace. Jayla stood by the window in the medbay, holding her sleeping child. Darius sat nearby, eyes closed but awake. The stars outside were calm, gentle, peaceful. She turned slightly, whispering to her son, I used to think strength meant never needing help. But now I know true strength is knowing who you'd die for, and who you'd live for. She looked down at him. And I'll live for you. 3 weeks passed. Outpost 17 had become quiet again, too quiet. The enemy hadn't attacked since Jayla and Darius returned. But everyone knew peace wouldn't last. The Zarn swarm was growing, gathering, learning. Jayla sat on the balcony just outside the recovery wing, holding her son. He slept peacefully against her chest. She didn't even care about the scar on her shoulder, or the fact that she hadn't slept in 2 nights. Her world had changed. Before, it was filled with war. Now, it was filled with meaning. Darius stepped out, his limp more noticeable but his strength returning. He sat beside her, placing an arm around her shoulder. He's strong, Darius said. He's both of us, Jayla replied. He'll be more than strong, he'll be wise. They sat in silence as the sun set behind the space horizon. But peace was short. A sudden alarm echoed across the outpost. Jayla's body tensed. She stood up fast. A voice came through the loudspeaker. All units prepare for defense. Zarn fleet detected. Full assault expected in 20 minutes. Jayla looked at Darius. Take him. Go underground. I'm coming with you. She shook her head. No, he needs at least one of us alive, and you're still healing. But she kissed him hard. Let me do this. Let me protect. What matters? 10 minutes later, Jayla stood fully armored in the war room, surrounded by human and Valari officers. Ellis looked at her. We don't have enough firepower. Their ships outnumber us 5-1. Jayla pointed at the outer ring on the screen. That asteroid belt, we can use it. If we pull them into the gravity field, they'll lose formation. Ellis raised an eyebrow. You want to fight them in the rocks? It's our only chance. Fine, he said. You lead. The Zarn came fast. Hundreds of sharp metallic ships darkened the sky like a storm. Their first strike hit hard. Turrets exploded. Power systems crashed. Fires broke out along the outer walls. But Jayla didn't break. She flew out ahead in a fighter, leading a small squad of human and Valari pilots. Her ship darted through the asteroid field, forcing the enemy to follow. Now! She shouted. The defense turrets activated, hidden between the rocks. Lasers cut through the chaos. Explosions lit the sky. Zarn ships collided with debris. They had walked right into the trap, but they kept coming. Jayla spun her fighter hard, dodging one missile, then another. Her targeting system locked on a massive command drone. She launched all remaining torpedoes. Direct hit. The enemy command. Ship cracked open in fire and sparks. A cheer broke across the comms. They're falling back. Someone shouted, We're winning! But just then, one final drone ship broke through twice the size. Heading straight for the outpost's core reactor, Jayla's console blinked red. I'm too far to intercept. No other fighters were close enough. Then a voice came through her comms. I can do it. It was Darius. He had taken a ground-to-air defense glider. Fast flight but unshielded. He fired at the giant drone's engine, drawing its fire. The drone turned, chasing him. Jayla's heart stopped. Darius, pull back. No time, he said. This is my stand." He flew straight at the drone dot and at the last moment, ejected. His glider exploded into the drone's power core. A massive explosion tore the drone apart. The shockwave knocked Jyla's fighter off balance, but she recovered. She gasped into her cum. "Darius, do you copy?" Static dot then coughing. "I'm alive, but landed hard." She laughed, tears in her eyes. "You idiot. I love you." "Too," he whispered. The enemy fleet scattered. Leaderless. Broken, Outpost 17 stood strong. Victory was theirs. Hours later, Jyla walked through the recovery hall, her baby in her arms. Darius lay on a stretcher, bruised but smiling. She stood over him and said, "I thought I told you to stay safe." He reached up, touched his son's small hand. He needed to know his father wasn't afraid. Jyla smiled, lowering the child gently beside him. "You taught me what protection really is," she said. "I mocked it, laughed at it, but now I live by it." "Then I did something right," he said. She leaned close. "No, we did." Months passed. The war slowly turned. Human and Valori forces began pushing the Zarn back. And among every soldiers, stories, one legend spread like wildfire, the warrior who once scoffed at protection, but became its fiercest defender. Her name was Jyla, and she fought for more than pride. She fought for home, she fought for love, and she fought for the future. Growing in her arms,